And here we are for another Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast number 104. We will be starting here shortly. All right. Make sure to see if we get the feed going. It takes about 30 seconds for the feed to catch up. So, all right, who's playing with Windows?
I'm logging into IRC.
Okay. Oh yeah, there is a chat, Yochai, if you want to be involved in that. It's you can just use the podnutz.com/live, and basically there's a little chat thing you can just sign into real easily right below the video window. Just make sure you don't start the video or you'll hear the sound come through.
Understood.
Twice.
Chris, stop misspelling Podnutz.
All right. So it looks like we've got the live feed is going. Excellent. Okay. And we are in show 104. All right. When you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody good?
All you.
All comfortable?
Yeah. I'll get in here.
Feeling rested and fantastic?
With my nice camera angle too. This is a lot better than the pop can that I had propping up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You look good.
Thank you. Oh, that didn't work out at all.
Please don't do that with your hair anymore. Okay, that's just weird. Okay.
No, I'm not weird.
You are not Fabio. That's all I have to tell you.
All right.
Okay. So here we go. Welcome to Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 104. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce you guys to the co-host for this week. We have Chris Carruthers from Remote Support Tech Team. How you doing, Chris?
I'm great. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm still doing Comcastic. So yeah,
are they sponsoring yet, or are you just doing that on your own?
I'm just doing it on my own, just until they make me mad and I move on to something else.
Perfect.
And that laugh you heard was from Yochai Gal from BostonTechCollective.com. Yochai, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good to have you on the show. Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm going to turn some lights on because I'm looking at myself here and it looks kind of terrace cell-y a little bit. Hold on.
You need the spotlights like what I got.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
I think I need one more looking at my face. The shadowing here is weird.
Oh. Anyways, this week, one of the topics we're going to talk about, I think, is we're going to talk about basically refurbishing computers and the proper way to do it. And we're going to try to, now Chris is the columnist expert, I guess, and he's going to basically let us know how to do, how to properly refurbish a computer with the Microsoft licensing, which I in the past have done it wrong, and I know I've done it wrong. I didn't care because, in my opinion, as long as I have a sticker on the bottom of my machine, I have a proper license, connected to that machine. But we're going to talk about some of the things that I kind of knew, but he had to explain to me a little bit better about how to actually properly do this, and to make sure that you're not liable when you are refurbishing a computer for sale. Now, whatever you do to your personal computer, however you want to do that, that is totally up to you. You own the hardware, well, not really. So you really, for all intents and purposes, you're renting the software, regardless of how you look at it. But you at least own that hardware, and you can do several things with it. So we'll explain the differences there.
Let's not turn sour about this, Jeff.
What's that?
Let's not turn sour about this.
No, it's not sour, but I do want to point out some of the baloney that I don't believe in. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, Chris,
Yes.
why don't you go ahead and start off and just kind of explain to us as the person who's just refurbished a computer and kind of go through the steps of how to properly do that.
Sure. Yeah. I actually refurbished a computer. I finished it about a half an hour ago. So or an hour, something like that. Anyway, so the Microsoft Registered Refurbisher Program, when I can talk, for anybody who hasn't already become a part of, it's completely free to join the Refurbisher Program, and it's a lot less expensive than buying retail keys. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But basically, the way the Refurbisher Program works is it allows you to purchase a license for a computer to get it ready for a new person to buy it. My example is that I had a customer bring me a Windows XP computer. It was probably about 7 years old, and his quote to repair that computer, I think, was around 400 and change, because somebody decided to help him fix his computer a couple of years ago and installed a pirated version of Windows 7 on it. As a legitimate business owner, I'm not going to install a pirated version of Windows 7 on his new hard drive when I replace the broken hard drive that needed to be replaced. So, as we have an XP sticker on the computer, I want to install Windows 7 on it because who wants to buy an XP computer? I offer the guy $20 for the machine, which I think is fair. He used that $20 towards buying his new computer, and he's on his way. To refurbish the computer, I bought a 3-pack of Microsoft Refurbisher licenses for Windows 7 Home Premium and installed Windows 7 on there. I have an unintended an unintended install file. It takes like 15 minutes to actually do the install. The important part there is that you can read the entire license key for the Windows XP key. It'll cost you about $33 for the Windows 7 license to put on there if you're a refurbisher. I can't really complain about that price. I mean, does that seem expensive to you?
No, it seems very inexpensive. So, and I wasn't aware of it because in the past, what I would normally do is just go buy an OEM disc, which is $100, pretty much anywhere.
Right, and for that $100, I got 3 of them. Right. If I couldn't read the key, because you have to log into your refurbisher account, provide the old key, and then provide the serial number for the new sticker, and it gives you the new key. You print off a sheet. It's like a certificate that has the new key on it. You have to give that to your customer, along with a Windows 7 disk that they provide you. Or you can set up hardware, like a hard drive recovery partition, but I'm not going through the hassle of doing that. So that's it. If you've got a valid OEM sticker on there, and you don't have the current recovery disks, you have to refurbish it.
So in other words, this is why this came up. One of the things Chris and I have been talking about is in the past when a customer brings a computer in and they have a broken hard drive that I need to replace, so they've never made the recovery media, okay? That the computer tells you when you boot it up, and a lot of times I think the reason they're not made is I think a lot of times these things are started up at Best Buy or wherever these people are buying them. And they just kind of go click through all the buttons, and they're accepting the licenses and all that stuff for the customer. But even if the customer does it, they never make the recovery media. So there's a recovery partition on the hard drive. But if you have a corrupted hard drive or a failing hard drive, you've got to replace it. Then one of the things you need to do is basically put an operating system on there. Now, what I've always done, and this is wrong according to the licensing agreement, what I've done is I've taken the OEM sticker on the bottom of the computer, and I basically have put that OEM sticker or the OEM license key into the operating system, called Microsoft up, went through the process, and they authenticated it. It was fine, and it was not a problem. But according to what Chris was kind of telling me is that really, if you don't have the original recovery media, and here's the difference. A lot of people go, well, what's wrong with that? Because we're installing a different OEM version. In other words, Dell has their own OEM versions, HP has their own OEM versions that they buy from Microsoft, and it has all their stuff on it. So, all the drivers and different things like that. Even though we do it differently. We're actually putting a different OEM on there and tying it to that license key on the bottom of the laptop or the side of the desktop.
And we should differentiate here too. There's a difference between repairing the computer for the customer that already owns the computer and repairing a computer for resale to a new customer. What you're doing is taking a general OEM disk to reinstall Windows on there because that's what you need to do to get the thing running. And it's going back to the same customer. They've already agreed to the license agreements. They already have all of that. None of that changes. You can just repair it with whatever disk you got. If Microsoft wants to come knock down my door over that, they can go ahead. Because
I know, yeah. Can I interject? Also, if you're using the recovery media and you don't, let's say the machine comes in and they have, they need Windows reinstalled for whatever reason, not their fault, and they do have the recovery media. It's not like it's slipstreamed with the latest updates.
Right.
If your example earlier, Chris, was of an XP machine, I doubt their recovery media had XP even Service Pack 3 on there. So, I'm not saying if you were going to resell it. I'm saying if you were just repairing it, and somehow they were not convinced to use Windows 7 instead of XP, are you expected to install with XP Service Pack 1 off some recovery disk? That just seems insane to me. And I totally agree with you.
Exactly. That would be ridiculous, and that's not what the Refurbisher program is about.
Right. Right.
If you read the description of the Refurbisher program, as I'm betting a lot of people are Googling it right now, the Refurbisher program is getting a computer ready for a new owner. It's when you're taking it from one person and selling it to another, right? That's what the Refurbisher program is for. So in my case, it was a really cheap way to upgrade it to Windows 7. But even if I wanted to have XP on it, I would have needed to contact Dell, because it was a Dell computer, and ask them for the recovery media, which they would not be able to provide me because it's so far out of date.
Right.
So I could not, under the Microsoft licensing, install Windows XP on that computer because I did not have the recovery media. I had to refurbish it. What if
you were going to keep it for yourself? Do you know what they would... Like if you wanted to reinstall XP from a machine you bought from someone that you had their OEM sticker?
Official answer? I'm a new owner of the computer. I need to refurbish it. That's the official answer. If you're two Joes walking down the street, one of them for some reason is carrying a computer, and you say, hey, that looks great, I want it, Microsoft's not coming after you for it. They're coming after us. They're coming after the repair shops, because we're the ones that they're going to go after for things like this. And it's happened. People have been shut down for this. The people that are getting shut down for piracy aren't always actually pirating anything. They're just not following the licensing model properly.
For resale specifically, not for repair.
Resale specifically. Right.
Yeah.
So, but even going back to what I was saying before, I'm pretty sure that even when I changed the license, or basically I changed the OEM software from an HP to a vanilla, or one I bought off the shelf for a brand new computer, I would imagine, even as a computer shop, I am still, my understanding was, even in the past, even before we brought this subject up, that I was still violating the license agreement.
You are, but not in a way that they would likely come after you for.
Okay.
This is why. The reason why an OEM license for Microsoft Office, Windows, anything that Microsoft puts out is less expensive than the ones that you would buy for retail is because Microsoft supports the retail and the OEM supports the OEM.
Correct.
So the licensing for that specifically states that if you have an HP computer with an HP OEM license on it, HP is required to provide the support for that product.
Yes.
You take a different OEM disk and install the operating system from that, it's no longer HP software and therefore is not supportable by HP or Microsoft. And since you haven't purchased an OEM license to put on there, you aren't supporting it either, which means that you are now liable for all of that, and rather than just making you support it, they'll just slap you with the fine for pirating Windows and not following the license process.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes more sense there. But I mean, most of these things, by the time we're getting them and having to replace them, they're out of warranty anyway, so they're not getting support from HP or Dell or whatever.
They're getting paid support from HP and Dell. Microsoft will still not support them and will still refer them over to HP and Dell HP and Dell are required to provide a paid support program for any computer that they've sold with their OEM license.
Gotcha.
So now I'm gonna cover this so that you can't see the
license key.
The license key. But that, you see how different that looks in color? How it's all like brown and stuff?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so that's the OEM sticker. That has to be put on the computer along with the original OEM sticker for a refurbished computer. And you have to provide them with all of your information because you're now supporting that operating system. It's yours.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
So this whole license transfer, it's very complicated.
So it's no longer a Dell. It's now a Chris Carruthers OEM.
Right.
The license agreement has now been moved from Dell to Remote Support Tech Team, which means the Remote Support Tech Team is now responsible for the technical support for the operating system installed on that machine. Now,
but now you're required to provide paid support, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because hey, no problem. We will be more than happy to provide a 90-day warranty like we're required to.
Right.
But this is a 7-year-old machine. I'm not going to provide free support for a year.
Sure.
Right? I think 90 days is a lot, but I'm trying to be generous here. Right? There's nothing wrong with this thing. I've tested the crud out of this. It's not dying anytime soon.
Yeah, 90 days, that's a good amount of time, and that's what if you buy a refurbished program from anywhere, that's what they give you is 90 days.
Yeah, between 30 and 90 days, depending on where you're buying it from, what state you're in, blah, 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 blah.
Right, sure.
But I mean, this is the whole point, right, is that you can make, now, I mean, I worked out my pricing for this. I put in a video card and I replaced the hard drive, and then I'm not counting the time it took to build the original answer file because I can modify the answer file in like 5 minutes for future deployments, right? So, all in all, maybe an hour worth of labor, plus parts and plus the software. I'm looking at a little bit less than $200 to actually do the refurbishing. That's how much it cost me. It was a little less than $200, and this computer will sell for $300. So I mean, for an hour of labor, I'll make $100. I did it myself, so that doesn't seem like a whole lot because I charge $89 an hour. It's not much more. But if I had one of my guys doing it at $15 an hour. Right?
Right.
It's a good profit margin. You can make a lot of money doing it, even if you don't do them all the time. You buy 3 licenses at a time, keep going, right? But you can still make money doing it. You just have to be willing to take on that risk and take on that liability.
Gotcha. Okay. So, Yochai, from your perspective, in your shop, what do you guys do when it comes to? Have you ever refurbished any?
We don't resell. We don't use old hardware. Period. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not knocking it. It's just not worth the hassle or the liability, as Chris said a second ago. And it's totally your call. We also charge a lot more. We charge flat fees for what happens in the shop, but for going to someone's house or business, we charge a lot more than $89 an hour. So I guess from my perspective, our profit margins happen elsewhere. But I was just thinking, while you guys were talking about it, that having a backbone in place so that one of our techs could just easily do this if it came up, there's nothing wrong with that. And
right.
if it means you can buy 3 licenses once after registering, then it's totally fine. It's not like something that I think will make a lot. My guess is in a year we would do maybe 6 of them, But that's still $600 in profit if it went the way Chris said. So There's nothing wrong with that. Not like it's going to be where I'll build my business model, but it's but a collection of these things can be very nice, like a collection of different services you offer. Like, for example, if we tied that into a data transfer to the person's new machine and then sold that machine later, we're actually making money off the old machine as well because we're transferring data from it. And it's all part of these little chunks that you sort of...
Exactly. And a lot of repair shops are trying to answer the question of what am I going to do with this old computer when somebody upgrades? Yeah. Because data transfer, especially with XP, went out the door, right? There was this huge number of people who wanted a new computer and they don't want to lose their data. They want to get everything transferred over. What am I going to do with the old computer? Well, a lot of these computers don't need replacement parts. They're just XP.
Yeah, right? That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Replacing any parts, and you can spend. If you already have your unattended answer file By the way, the refurbisher program, when you buy your first licenses, they send you the OPK, the OEM pre-installation kit, so the customer still can go through and accept the license agreement and all of that. So that's all set. But if you set up your OPK and you set up your answer file properly, the only two things you have to do when you're prepping that system is here's the license key, and you copy and paste that into your answer file, and here's the size of the partition because maybe the hard drive's a different size. And then that's it. It's going to take you 15 minutes to do it, and if you can convince a business, let's say, that has 20 XP desktops, and there's nothing wrong with those desktops, you say, listen, we want to get you upgraded to new computers, so here's how much it would cost to get you onto Windows 7 computers. Now you have 20 computers, we're willing to give you a $400 discount off of this new installation, and now you're charging labor, you're charging for the computers, you're making all of that profit. You give them $400 out of your profit to get these 20 computers that you could refurbish with Windows 7 licenses and make $100 each off of those. I mean, come on. You know, so you can make a lot of money doing it.
What kind of media do you use for the install?
You get discs, CDs. I use CDs because I'm not doing a bunch of them, but you can slip them if you want, and do a network install. What I did is I put you get the OEM pre-installation kit, which is this disc, and then for every license that you buy, they send you the actual operating system disc because you have to give them to your customer. I use the OPK to create the answer files so that the entire thing's unattended. Put the disk in, put in the USB, turn it on. When it boots from disk, you don't have to do anything with the installation if you set up your OPK right. You set up your answer file right. So it automatically puts in the license key for me, creates the partition, installs Windows, installs all the drivers because I preloaded all the drivers onto it, changed the OEM information to have my phone number and support hours so that they can contact my company if they have any support issues. So it's all completely automated.
Well, I can see the drivers being the one area where I would run into trouble because no matter how well of an imaging system or installation system I've got set up, drivers are always the worst part. They're always just because of the different hardware you deal with and having that, you know. So yeah, I can see that as being one potential area of slowness. Although worst comes to worst, you don't put the driver, then you install it after the install. But
right, because what happens with again, you need to set up your OPK properly. There's an entire walkthrough on the Microsoft Refurbisher website after you log in, so it's really hard to mess it up. I found a way to do some settings wrong because I was trying to get fancy.
That's how you learn, Chris.
That's right. But I don't make mistakes. I make learning experiences.
Yes.
So, but I got it. I did manage to pre-install everything. And what happens is at the end of the installation, I have it set up to go into audit mode, which brings up a Windows PE environment, but it loads Windows. It loads the Windows that's on the hard drive and just bypasses all of the client agreements and all of that. So I checked Device Manager. Yep, everything's installed properly. Right-click, go to Properties on Computer. Okay, yep, there's my company name, phone number, support hours. It's all there. So everything went completely flawlessly on this one. If a driver had failed, I had the network plugged in. All I would have had to have done would be to download the driver onto the computer, run it, and reboot, and the driver would be there. When everything was done, I told it that I was done and told it to go into the UBI out of box experience mode. So the next time it gets turned on, now the customer's going to see, choose your language, choose your time zone, put in your name, create user, all of that stuff, just like if you bought it at the store. Like
that's what do they call that? Simple touch or touch the when you trigger the ubi.exe file to start that process. I used to remember. It doesn't matter.
I can't remember what it's called. It's Ubi.
Win touch? No, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Very interesting.
But like I said, once you get everything set up, sorry, Jeff. Once you get everything set up the first time, it's so simple to do the next ones. My labor cost is going to go way down if I do the other two. I don't know if I'm going to use the other two licenses, but if I do, labor cost is going to be way down because now all I have to do is say, here's the license key, here's the size of the partition, boom, boom, done. And just walk away from it. Check it after it's done. Make sure everything worked fine.
No, this is all good information. And something I was just thinking about was that, okay, so they're going to stop selling Windows 7. In other words, you won't be able to get a Windows 7 OEM disc. You won't be able to get a Windows 7 retail disc anymore. And I can't remember when the cutoff date is, but it's coming soon.
They have a cutoff date?
Oh yeah, when they're going to stop selling. Yeah, they stop selling it with new computers. And
I think it's next June or something.
Okay, something like that. I know it's coming up, but my thing is, but I bet you with a refurbisher program, you could probably still get OEM licenses for Windows 7 even after they stop selling it officially, because you're refurbishing older computers.
No. When the XP end of life happened, now, mind you, it's end of life. Okay?
Yeah, we're not talking about end of life. We're talking about we're not putting this as a Dell, HP, whatever manufacturer. We're not putting this on any of our systems anymore because we can't even get it from Microsoft. But you still have older systems out there that have Windows 7 on them, so they're still going to need to be refurbished because they're not going to be able to maybe they don't want to move up to Windows 8 or something like that.
Hey, that's neat.
What's
so
that?
According to the end of sales sheet on Microsoft Lifecycle's website, end of sales for PCs with Windows pre-installed came on October 31st, 2014.
Okay, I knew it was soon.
But that's the pre-install, not the. You can still go to Discount Mountain Software and download a Windows 7 OEM. That's what we do.
Let's look at the difference though between when Microsoft sells something and when the retailer stops selling something.
Right.
Microsoft stopped selling retail software for Windows 7 Home Basic, Home Premium, and Ultimate on October 31st, 2013, and
right.
You can still buy them because they're bought in bulk.
Yeah, there's tons of them out there.
Sure.
So it's just like the Malwarebytes lifetime, right? Malwarebytes lifetime, you can still. I've got a couple left. You can still buy them in Canada at some places because it wasn't as popular up here.
Right.
So I can still go to the store and buy Malwarebytes lifetime. I don't want to, but I could.
Right.
Right. So
Well, that's my point, though. This might actually be something that's a good piece of knowledge when you can no longer get the OEM or retail software because it's gone, and Microsoft is producing no more licenses for it. But I bet you the refurbisher program is still going to be going strong because I can't imagine them shutting that down.
Because what they'll do with the refurbisher program is probably what they did with Windows XP. And what they did with Windows XP is they allowed refurbishers to continue purchasing refurbisher licenses for XP until the end of the extended support time. The date that the end of extended support was what, April?
Yeah,
They stopped accepting it. You had to buy Windows 7. They didn't even let you buy Windows Vista. You had to buy Windows 7 or Windows 8. Those were the two choices you had.
Thank God.
I don't blame them.
Right.
Yeah, no, it gives me an excuse. So.
Right. Now, if they do that, Windows 7 extended support is scheduled to end January 14th, 2020.
Yeah.
So if they follow the same model for Windows 7 as they did for Windows 8, you're still going to be able to buy these licenses for another 3 years and a couple months.
Right.
So
no,
there's lots of time.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and that's my point. Is that's going to be a good thing,
right?
To be able to because there's a lot of people who go, wait a minute, I can't get OEM discs anymore, for whatever reason, because they're out. But if I have an office that needs to have some computers, maybe they had Windows Vista on them, let's say, and they need to be upgraded. But if you can't get the OEM software, maybe you can still get the Windows 7 for an office environment as a refurbisher program and be able to do it that way. So that would be cool.
Be careful, because if you're refurbishing the computer to go back to the original owner, then you're not refurbishing the computer and you're going against the license agreement.
Oh, now you're just confusing me.
I'm not trying to confuse you, Jeff. The refurbisher program is to go from one owner of the computer to another. So if you just go and install Windows 7 on all of these computers using your refurbisher licenses so that business can upgrade, you're going against the license terms.
Well, and that's true. And actually, to be honest with you, you're going against the license terms if I went and bought a $99 OEM version also.
Yes,
you are. OEM version is only for a brand new build. Yet How many people are taking that OEM version and putting it on a brand new build?
Don't answer that. You're not.
Nobody. I'll answer for you. Nobody. I'm just saying. So I think we've come to a conclusion that, again, and don't get me wrong, guys, I love Microsoft products. I live in a Microsoft environment. That will never change for me. But their product lines and their licensing terms are confusing at best. And, just, it's one of those things where you guys need to follow along and basically kind of check into this stuff yourself and just make sure that you're doing stuff to the best of your ability the right way when you're doing it. And, again, it all depends on the scenario of what you're trying to do, whether you're reselling a computer, whether it's staying with that same owner, whether you're just taking it over, those types of things. So you definitely need to check into what's required for what you're going to be doing. But I can understand, especially when you're doing a resell. And Chris, your scenario was perfect. You're going from a Windows XP machine that has a license sticker on it, and you're moving it up to a Windows 7 machine, which you're getting a refurbisher license for it. So that is a perfect scenario to move that computer to a upgraded system. Now, I'll be honest with you, you guys must be getting much better computers than my customers have, because usually when I get an XP machine, it's like 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. So they're no good at that point.
I mean, you just have to have a bottom line of like, my background is in data recovery, so I'm very sensitive to hard drives, and I don't sell used hard drives. It's just not that new ones are secure or safe, but I can at least go by their warranties. So if I was reselling a machine, it doesn't matter if the machine tests fine. I'm pulling that drive out and putting a new one in. It doesn't cost very much. No. And for me, I actually look at it as an ethical issue, because people are idiots and don't back up their data, and that's just common. It's just what happens. Everyone does it. So.
And it's not like you can't sell them something too, right? Like, you can sell them a backup plan. You can sell them on
right.
You can add all of those things on once the computer.
That's a very good point. Yeah, we can do what we already do. We already do, Backblaze and ESET. So just basically, putting those on my on those machines. That's actually a really great point. It's all about the ecosystem of sort of sales and support, as long as you're willing to take on that additional liability of, I got to support this machine. The way I look at it is, we do custom builds on occasion. Someone will come in and say, oh, I want a really powerful Photoshop machine that doesn't cost as much as a Mac Pro. And we'll say, all right, we'll build you a PC for, $2,000. The parts will cost us obviously less than that. We charge the labor for building it, but then you look, it's not just the money we get from building it, it's also all the extra things you get with that, if you're willing to support your product. That's the only, in my opinion, that's the only thing that kind of makes me wonder, and that's about custom builds, period, is refurbished and custom build, is like, are you willing to support that, and for how long, and how are you going to track it? How are you going to track that asset? So if in a year down the line someone complains to you, you can at least look it up and say, oh, no, this is out of our support warranty. And obviously yours is 90 days, so that's a lot less. But
right, but I mean, you should. Okay, so I'm gonna watch IRC right now and watch the flames come in. If you do not have a ticketing system, you should not be offering anything that has a warranty. Okay? Your ticketing system should have the serial number, should have all of the information that you can possibly think of that will help you identify this computer in the ticket, with the date stamp that the customer bought it at. If all of that information is not there, close your doors, because you're going to have people kicking it down to get money back from you.
Yeah, well, that's why there's like an example of what's it called? Repair Tech. Their live USB can grab hardware information and send it to your ticketing software. We use Repair Shopper, and it actually integrates with Repair Tech, and you can actually get a dump of all their stuff in that ticket without you having to really do anything. So that's
right.
Yeah, they're with you.
Important thing to do, because if you're not taking that information and you're just repairing something, how do you know they don't have two Dell whatever? Like, people all the time will buy two of the exact same model computer, and then what's to say that they don't just bring the second computer and say, look, you didn't fix it?
Right, that's a very good point.
That information down, you're already getting yourself into a lot of trouble. Forget reselling computers.
Now let me say this. Now, most warranties for the small repair shops, like myself and others who listen to this show, is usually 7 days so, on a repair. But no, I do agree. You do need some sort of a tracking system if you're going to build machines and offer. Because let's face it, if you look at the parts warranty and stuff like that, if you're going to build a machine, you probably should be at least giving a year warranty on it. Now refurbishing, yeah, 90 days. That's going to be easy enough. But yeah, you want to do that year. If you're building a machine for somebody, so you can support that. That's just part of the cost of doing business. That's why not everybody builds machines, because they don't feel it's worth it. The amount of money that comes in from that is not worth it to do it. Now, some people, they build their whole business around it, and they've made it worth it for what they do.
Yeah, it's called an extended warranty. But listen, really, you tell them, hey, for an extra, hey, this computer costs you like $2,000, but for an extra $200 instead of a 1-year warranty, we'll give you a 2-year. $250, we'll do 3.
Right.
I've built my fair share of gaming computers, okay, and I built one non-gaming computer for a normal person that just wanted a custom-built computer because he hates brands. The only thing that I've heard from that guy was when I ran into him at Walmart, and he said, hey, you're that guy that built my computer. It's running great. I just wanted you to know. And I'm like, that was 5 years ago. Okay, well, I can't complain about that. The other computers that I've built, they were gaming computers, and the calls that I'm getting from them are, I need a new computer because mine's out of date now.
Can I interject? My anecdotal experiences are a little different. I've actually had a lot of bad luck with custom builds, mostly because, I'll give you a perfect example of the qualified vendor list, okay? Let's say I'm building a custom build, gaming machine, whatever, and for whatever reason, the RAM that I normally buy for this exact motherboard, let's say that motherboard that I normally buy for this purpose isn't available anymore or something like that. I buy a new motherboard in the same line. For all intents and purposes, the RAM and the motherboard should work. But for whatever reason, week after week, I'm getting a call from the same guy saying, I'm having weird issues. I run mem test, doesn't show anything. I tried reseeing the RAM, doesn't show anything. Everything looks fine to me. I give it back to him. A week later, he has another problem with the same weird random freezing, which I assume is memory. Anyways, this happens 4 or 5 times. The customer's not really pissed off, but he has a reason to be. We end up swapping the RAM out completely with a different brand. Guess what? Everything works. So that kind of like weirdness that comes up with the custom build world of like some hardware just doesn't like each other, and I don't know why, and I don't have the time to do the research to know why. It's not like you need special knowledge to know how RAM or motherboards or CPUs work. You just need to keep up, and I don't have time for that. Sure. So if I don't have someone in my shop keeping up with all the hardware and who can tell me the step of every CPU in the last 5 Intel chipsets they work with, it's not worth it to me. So custom builds for us are not worth pursuing, and I wish that they were. But that's kind of why we steered away. And I agree with you that the ones that aren't gaming machines, I never hear from those people. That's so the simple, But you know what? If you're not building a gaming or a graphics machine, they'll buy a Dell. Like I'll have them buy a OEM cheap machine, and it's just not worth it, But then that's my experience. I'm not saying yours is going to be the same, but that's sort of what happens with us.
What it comes down to is it comes down to support, and that's something you're like, I'm not, because I haven't had good experiences doing that. I don't want to support these types of problems because they cause, me heartache in doing my business when I could be doing other things that are more profitable that I could, do in my business. So no, that makes perfect sense. And I advertise that I will build a custom machine, but I don't do it. I don't advertise big time. Now I've had people that want me to build machines, believe it or not, for doing their stock trading, and because they've got 3 humongous monitors running and the Core i7-920 that they had with 12 gigs of RAM and a honking, big AMD video card and whatever, the mouse lag was ridiculous. So I had to build them a Core i7, 6-core, whatever. And the only thing I didn't replace on that, I built them a whole new machine, was the video card that he had just bought. It was a brand new AMD video card. So I basically put everything together, and it cost him a couple $1,000, and all it was for was stock trading.
Well, you say that, but somebody who's stock trading at that speed, that mouse lag will cost them a few $1,000 because they didn't button on time.
Yep. And it was horrendous. It was terrible, and there was no reason. I went through everything to try to figure out what was going on. There's no reason. The only thing he did differently than other people is in the stock trading software, you're allowed to make it your own. So you can basically write code to it to do certain things a certain way. And he had wrote so much code that it was just making the system lag. So yeah, but I haven't heard from that guy.
Yeah.
I think I send an email out every once in a while, every 6 months or whatever. Hey, everything's working great. Appreciate it. Thanks. Good job.
That's why the extended warranties sell, right?
Yep.
Extended warranties are being sold by retail shops and by the manufacturers directly if you're buying direct, because more often than not, it never gets used. And even if you have a problem, that doesn't even mean you're going to call.
Right.
Right? So, the extended warranties, an extra couple $100 to give you 2-3 years instead of 1, will sell a lot.
Sure.
Absolutely. And people willing to pay for it are usually the ones that are willing to keep care of their computer in the first place.
Yeah.
So there is a way to make it profitable. And even if you're only doing, like I said, a couple of them here and there whenever it just happens to come across your desk, it's a little bit of extra money that you would have made, and if the customer had a problem with the computer, they probably would have brought it to you anyway.
Right.
The question is can you afford to give away that free support?
Right.
If you wind up with a problem, and how many problems do you expect you're going to get during your warranty period?
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those things. I'll be honest with you. If I could make a business around building PCs, I would do it all day long.
Sure.
It's my favorite thing to do. I love building PCs, because everything's brand new. It's plug and play. Throw the operating system on, configure it a little bit, do some updates. It's easy to do, but it's just one of those things where I can't make my whole business just that. I have to do repair and manage services and stuff like that. So
even the people that do the custom builds, they're making such slim margins, to my understanding, that I think we're seeing less and less of it, which is unfortunate. I like having more. There's tons of vendors out there, and not as many as there used to be. And if you're like, I'm a Linux guy, right? So like we only have a couple vendors that sell machines that we know are going to work with Linux in the way that I want them to. Sure. My understanding is that they're for the most part, they're all way more expensive than they need to be. They tend to have terrible support. I'm not going to name names, but they tend to have terrible support. And from what I understand, people who I've talked to who work in that realm, they still don't make any money. So I think it's sad. I'm actually really happy this program exists that I did not know about until Chris talked about it, because I didn't know how easy it was to at least be some kind of OEM.
Sure.
So I thought there was a bigger barrier, but I guess if you're not buying the hardware or building the hardware, you're not. Maybe I can see it.
And it comes down to setting up distributors and setting up all of those channels. Like when you set yourself up as a Microsoft registered refurbisher, you have to have a distributor to sell you. Like I use Tech Data. To sell you the licenses in the first place. Same thing if you want to be a proper Microsoft OEM, you're not going to the store and picking up the OEM disc. You're setting yourself up as an OEM through Microsoft so that you can get it through a distributor to get the licenses cheaper.
Right.
There's always a way to get your parts and software cheaper. There's always a way to drive your own costs down so that you can make yourself competitive. You're not going to be able to compete with Dell and HP in price. You're never going to be able to compete with Walmart, Shop, Best Buy, whatever you got going on.
Yep.
What you are going to be able to compete with is quality and support. And those are the two things you need to push. And if that means that every computer that you have that has a 1-year warranty on it also has your managed service plan for 1 year, and you have that built into the cost, do it.
Yeah.
Fine.
Also convenience. Convenience as well as like being right there, as opposed to having to wait for 4 days for something to show up.
Right.
True. That's true. Now,
I have mine with the 1-year warranty. The gaming computers that I do now, I have another one that's going to be. I did one a month ago. I have another one coming up in 2 months, And the condition for them having me build the computer is they have to also buy the 1-year managed service plan for me to give them a 1-year warranty. And they're happy to do it because I give them good support, I give them good quality hardware, and everything's great.
So now, how much do people charge to build machines for the customer? What's a good round figure? You don't have to say exactly what you charge, but what would you feel is a good?
I mean, I can tell you, all our prices are on our website for the shop. No, I mean so we charge flat fees for the build. We charge $100 to build it and $150 for an OS install. So we basically charge $250 in labor, and then whatever. Usually, our margins are around 40%. It depends on the component. So. Yeah, and that doesn't include data transfer from previous machine from another machine. But I don't think pricing is something you can just compare. You have to look at the market. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. My office is in Boston, and my other office is in San Francisco. So I don't think that's like compare it based on that. You got to drop it down to 15% or something. 2
tech capitals of the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's one of the many, but yeah, these two are
Yeah.
East Coast, West Coast, so yeah. Oh man. Okay. No, that sounds good. I was wondering what because I charge $200. Basically that's basically your OS install and building the machine. So it's just kind of all inclusive. But yeah, I just wonder what the market is. You're right. It does depend on the area. But a lot of people that want a nice machine and aren't willing to do it themselves. I mean, let's face it, people are coming to us because we have the expertise and they don't.
Yeah.
Right.
They're willing to pay more for it because they know that they'll get the better quality out of it.
Yeah.
Right? We bill 2 hours labor as a flat rate, and it depends on the labor rate. So right now that's $89 an hour.
Okay.
And then part markup is 15 to 20% depending on what part it is.
Right.
So, our rates are a lot lower, but we're also not in Boston.
Yeah. And to be fair, on components like graphics cards, for example, if they have a good graphics card, we're not charging 40% markup on.
No.
Right.
But we'll charge the same markup and try to find a cheaper deal. Like if I can find, so the reality of the world that we're in is someone can go to PC Part Picker and see how much a computer costs them.
Right.
I think knowing what the customer needs and what they know is the most important thing, because if you know those two things, you can figure out how to get them to trust you, which is the goal, I think. Is
right.
If they don't trust you, everything's going to be more difficult. So to me, they'll come here and they'll say something to me like, oh, I want a computer that'll do this. And I'll say, okay, well, here's what you'll need. And then they'll start asking about graphics cards. And they'll tell me, well, I can get that graphics card for this price. And I'll say, but you didn't know which graphics card to get. I'm telling you which one. That's what you're paying for. Like I feel like if people try to challenge you on it, there are good responses. Like they're paying you for your knowledge, not just the quality. They're paying for you to know what to buy. That's why it's so important to have someone who knows what they're talking about, which is why I'm trying to move out of it, because I don't have someone who can spend all that time anymore. I used to. So that,
you need to hire a gamer. But
yeah, that's the thing is I'm the gamer, but I don't have time for it anymore.
Well, Brad, my tech Brad built his own system, and we joke around because we both built our systems independently, and yet he has his motherboard. Mine is the same motherboard but a model up. He has a better processor than I do because I didn't really need that, but I have more RAM than he does, and one model up on his video card. So we basically built the same machine for the same purposes, with a couple of differences. So, there's something to be said about that. But when you're looking at should I build these custom machines, I think you're looking at two markets. You're looking at the people coming to you saying, this is what I want. Well, 3 markets. These are the parts that I want. How much are you going to charge me to put this together? This is what I want my computer to do. How much are you going to charge me to put this together? Or, hey, I see that you have this custom build on your website. When can I pick it up? Because what I'm seeing is that people who list, we can build custom computers, here's 4 base computers that we can sell to anybody, or contact us for a specific quote. Those are the people who tend to sell more custom computers because the customers see okay, we have these computers, we have the basic, the pro, the ultimate, and the oh my god. And then it gives them a good idea of this is the type of pricing that you're looking at. Now, you might sell those a little bit less than the others because you have the entire process automated for those 4 machines. These are the 4 machines that you're selling. And then you charge a little bit more for the custom ones because you have to do the research and do all of that. But you want to sell custom computers, have some base plans.
Yeah, right. But again, that needs someone to. You have to have someone who can stand by that and tell us what that. Like that's what we used to do. We had pre-made machines that we would sell. We would say, okay, here's our base model, and the problem is hardware changes, price changes, and without when we lost, he actually moved back to his home country, so it was a good. We left on good terms. But when he left, the guy who sort of was in charge of that, what am I supposed to do? But I think that's a great idea. Is like maybe it's something worth. I'm gonna write that down.
Now,
having ready custom builds.
Now I cheat because I go to PCPer.com and because those guys, that's all they do over there is they review hardware all day long, 365 days a year, and they have their build lists. And what I do is I'll do a mix and match between what I think is a good bang for the buck. I can look at that list in like 2 minutes and figure out exactly what I need as far as parts.
Yeah.
And then it's more just about getting the proper pricing. But the reality is when I buy parts, I'm only buying them from a couple different places.
Yeah.
Newegg or Amazon or whatever. And I'm just going to find my best deal. And lately, man, when it comes to like hard drives and stuff like that, I'm getting better deals on Amazon than I am on Newegg. And so when I'm building custom machines for myself or my kids or whatever, I'm just looking and I get some from Newegg, some from Amazon, and it all works out. But it's the parts that I'm looking at from PCPer.com that kind of give me that base to start from. So it saves me a lot of time and effort of having to keep up with all the knowledge out there of what's changing, because I used to, but not so much anymore, Yochai. I'm in the same position. I don't have time to do that stuff. I'm either doing my computer business, I'm working, or I'm playing video games. So those are my 3 things.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that's when we were doing this, that kind of thing wasn't as common. Like this is before like PC Part Picker was even around. That said, there are still things that always, and this is just me being a warrior, but like let's say you go with the SSD that they recommend off that site, off of was it PC Part Per that you called it?
PC Perspective, but it's PC.com. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's say you go with what they say, and then like 6 months later, you find out that there's a firmware bug with the SSDs that they recommended, which causes a caching problem, which causes the machine to get slow. Then you have to be aware of that and realize that you've sold that exact SSD in 10 different machines, and you have to support it, which comes down to the liability issues that Chris was mentioning earlier. So it's like I always get myself in these like loops of like, oh, it's not worth it, like every time, and maybe it is, but that's sort of like I just see it too. I pay attention. And I just don't trust anything anymore. So
here's what happens. You can't. Because here's the thing. Even as we look at parts and stuff like that, how many times have you made a bad decision on a particular part and you go, oh man, I shouldn't have got that part, or that didn't work out for what I'm doing. So that stuff's always going to be out there. In like the SSD you're talking about. I bought that SSD that they had on that site that's been one of the top SSDs for a while, and so far I haven't seen any slowdown. As a matter of fact, as I've gotten it running and tweaking it, it actually runs better than it originally did. So, it's just, I know. But you're right. It comes down to how much time do you want to spend on that. Maybe I'm going to have some liability. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
And is it worth it marginal-wise of whether I'm going to, get enough benefit out of that or make enough money from doing that particular.
No, and maybe it is. Maybe if you have a way to deal with it, like, so what if it happens? As long as you have a good program that they've purchased, they can bring it in, you can swap it out, provided you have the components there on site. So you're right. It's just more thinking about those things.
Right. Well, and here's what's going to happen. So, and I'm going to be making the assumption that this is coming from a repair shop and not somebody like me that I do remote support, right? So, if you have a repair shop and let's say you sold 20 computers with this hard drive in it, and you're really excited and you made all of that money, and then you find out, oh, there's this firmware update. All right, well, the firmware problem is only really actually going to affect maybe 25 to 30% of the users, okay? Realistically.
Yeah.
So if I sold 20 of them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Newegg or wherever I'm going to get the best deal on, and I'm going to find the same size solid-state drive, and I'm going to buy 5 of them. I need parts in the shop anyway. So buying 5 solid-state hard drives, not really going to be that big of a deal. They'll wind up getting used at some point. But this way I've got 5 drives in the shop so that if someone calls up and says, I'm starting to have a problem with the computer slowing down, oh yeah, you know what, there's actually a slight chance that you might have had a problem like that. Why don't you go ahead and bring it in? We can clone that over. They're solid state. I mean, really, it's not going to take more than an hour or 2 probably to clone it, right?
Oh yeah.
Let's get that cloned over. And well, I'm thinking processing time too, not just the physical work. Bring it on over. We're going to get that swapped out. We're going to switch the serial numbers on your warranty to make sure that the warranty continues on with the new part, and we're going to go ahead and take care of that for you. You're probably also going to be able to get a refund from the manufacturer of that hard drive.
Right. I'm not denying that there's a good process for all of this. It's just that the process is A, dynamic, because you're going to be doing it for different hardware and you don't know what's going to happen. Yep. And then B, you just have to have a system in place.
Right.
So it's more about, do you want to spend the time to get a right system and adjust it over time? I'm not denying that you can't deal with this. You totally can.
No, you could do it. But what I'm saying is that you're looking at maybe an hour out of your time, maybe 5 computers, maybe you're going to lose 5 hours. And that sounds like a big deal. Okay? It really does. But now you're going to wind up with, wow, they really took care of me. That was freaking amazing. Well, the guy told me when I first bought the computer that I should really either upgrade or replace my computer every 4 years because of the way the hardware goes. So I guess in 2 years I'm going to wind up replacing this computer and I'm going to go to them. And I'm going to tell all my friends and family about how awesome this company was, because when they had a problem, they took care of it. I was in and out in a couple hours. It was amazing. And now you've got 10 more sales.
And it's one of those things. Yeah, I can see Yochai's point too, because I'm a one-man shop, and basically this is the way I've always thought. There's a lot of things I don't do because I don't want to support them, because I don't have the time and effort to do it. So I think what it really comes down to is either not just processes in place, but Yochai, I think what you're saying is also having somebody in place to deal with that particular issue. Or things, whether it comes to build or, support, warranty work, that type of thing. And if you don't, then you're kind of the one holding the bag, and you got to do all the work. And there's a lot of things where I go, it's just not worth my time.
Right. Well, and that's actually, to be honest, this is a bad example because this is actually totally legitimate, and everything Chris is saying is true. I'm just being cynical because this is what I do. But the thing we have a lot of trouble with that somewhat relevant to this is replacing hardware on laptops, right? Someone spills water on their keyboard. Now they bring it in. First, let's say we have a queue, okay? Because we have endless stream of customers in our shop all day. So we have a queue. So first, we have to figure out how to get the information from their laptop keyboard that we need in order to figure out what price it's going to be for that piece of hardware, or if it even is possible to purchase. Before we can even tell them what it will cost to repair the laptop. We can tell them the price for repairing the keyboard, but we don't know what the keyboard costs, and it varies wildly, and it doesn't always work. And you have no way of testing them, and there's almost no way to keep inventory because there's so many different kinds of laptops out there. So hardware it can be a very difficult world, especially when the things like keyboards you don't buy off Newegg. You buy a lot of the keyboards off eBay and off like various sites that special ThinkPad parts, whatever. So this is why having processes, time, and money put into making this work is the only way for it to be possible. And we still repair laptop keyboards, but it is something we talk about all the time. Like, is this worth it? Like, is it worth it to remember that when you put this new keyboard on this specific laptop, you have to change the pip on the motherboard for it to be able to accept it, and you have to figure out what keyboard it needs, which requires taking it apart first and getting the serial and then Googling it, and then there's just all this crap that has to happen, and that's why I get kind of like about hardware.
So here's my process. Here's what I've figured out thus far, and this is constantly a changing process, and I'm trying to adapt it and make it better. So, prime example, I just had a keyboard come in. Actually, the whole laptop was spilled on, but it had a keyboard that basically, it was a nicer keyboard. It was a light-up keyboard that basically had the tin foil on the bottom, so it held all the water, so you got water nowhere else. So it basically took me 5 minutes to pull the keyboard, probably not even 5 minutes, to pull the keyboard off. I looked at the serial number on the back. I matched it up to one on eBay, ordered it, got it in. He paid me $100. The keyboard cost me $30. What I've noticed is keyboards generally will run a range of $30. I always say $30 to $50. So a lot of times,
unless they're MacBook keyboards with palm rests.
we don't talk about those expensive things. But
hey,
yeah, no, you're right.
they make
You're
money,
right.
and you know what? They're consistent. We can at least eyeball them. I agree that but see, you don't have a stream of people coming in. These people have to drop it off, and we have to have the time to deal with it. It's not something they can. If they're lucky, we'll have a space to say, "Hey, have a seat. We'll just take it apart right now and look." But there are some Sonys, some Lenovo's that you need a good half an hour to get that off. Then you call the customer and say, "Okay, I know you need your computer, so why don't you come pick it up? And then when the part gets here in 5 days, we'll call you." So it's like this whole sort of.
Now, and there's a lot of times. See, I understand what you're saying. Basically, if something's not working on there and they bring me the computer, number one, they're dropping it off. I don't do anything on site. You're dropping it off, and that's just part of the deal that I do because I don't have a shop, like you guys. And so when they drop it off, I call them back, go, hey, here's what it's going to cost, blah blah, because I'll do a free diagnostic. Here's what it's going to cost, blah blah blah, and they're like, okay, go ahead and do it. All right, should be ready in about 3 or 4 days. That's it.
Well, see, we don't always get the parts that fast, and people need it. We'll have guys who come in, and this is what they run their business off of. They understand they can use a keyboard for it.
Plug in the keyboard.
Yeah. So, actually, the big thing that we run into a lot, and this is again another tangent, but it's relevant, is how to help people leave their machines with us. We will get, and we were talking about this last week. We have a queue, right? And there's nothing we can do about that. We only have so many people, and time is an issue, and hardware has to be ordered, yada yada. What do you do to get people to leave their machines with you if they need them as their daily driver? Do you have rentals? Do you tell them just deal with it? Do you tell them sorry we can't help you? Because we have people regularly who often will not leave their machine because it just takes too long, even though somewhere else is going to do the same thing. But the reality is we have jobs ahead of them in the queue. They have to order hardware. We don't have it in stock. A million things that they might think might not happen somewhere else. So how do you guys deal with that?
Outsource your virus removals.
Really? That was your...
No. Look, here's what that comes down to. If somebody can't leave their computer with you, then they don't really want to get it fixed all that bad.
No, they'll take it somewhere else.
Sure.
That's their perspective.
And then they take it somewhere else and they get the same response. But if you're getting into, okay, you know what, we can rent you a laptop, we can do these other things, sure you can do that, but how much do you want to bet that person that's freaking out that they can't get their laptop fixed right now and they're going to go somewhere else that's proprietary software on that laptop?
Yeah, that's right.
So a rental isn't going to do you any good.
Well, it depends, but that was the point that I made when we were talking about this at the shop a few months ago, and I said, well, these guys always need their own proprietary software. It has to be set up, yada, yada, yada. But then one of the guys said, you know what? But in the situations where they don't, a Chromebook is like $200, and we could rent it to them for X amount with no, we could get a credit card deposit from them. We could rent it out to them, and we didn't actually do it, but we talked about it as a possibility. That's why I mentioned it. I totally agree, though. In the sense of proprietary software, there's nothing you can do for them.
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, so I've dealt with small business owners. They might run a soil shop or something like that, dirt and concrete and stuff like that, where they have QuickBooks on their laptop, hard drive's dying, laptop's dead, okay, or dying. It's not working properly. They have payroll on there and everything. And, here's the thing. They can't do anything until that stuff gets moved over either to another computer or that computer gets fixed. And, a lot of times the situation is I tell them, go buy another laptop, bring it here, drop it off, and I will move your data over. We'll get it set up. But they're usually without a computer for 48 hours. They're the business owner. They just have to deal with it. There's nothing... They have no other machine. There's nothing else they can do. And one of the reasons I one of the reasons I give a free diagnostic for myself, now this is not going to work for everybody, is that 9 times out of 10, when the person brings in a computer, they always get it fixed here. I never have a problem because I've already got it. I've already given them a price. They're happy with the price or whatever, and they're ready to go. So they're like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah, that happens for us too. Diagnostic helps, especially for smart testing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I don't do a free diagnostic, and it's because and I have to worry about, okay, so how much is it going to cost for me to have this on the bench? How much is it going to cost for me to have somebody test this thing? How much is it going? right? If I'm going to wind up spending a half an hour testing the machine to figure out what's wrong with it, I mean that's
we charge for that. If it takes more than 5 minutes, like our process is, you bring a machine in, we smart test the hard drive immediately. Doesn't matter what your problem is, we want to know how that hard drive is doing.
Sure.
And that's not a problem for us. We have methods of dealing with it in every capacity, and we just deal with it. If it takes us more than a few minutes, we will say, hey, I need to charge you I will either charge you a flat diagnostic fee of $100, and there's nothing they can do about that, or I'll charge you to fix it. So if I call someone and say, oh, it turns out you have a failed drive, we didn't detect it before, blah, 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 you can either pick it up right now and pay us $100, or you can pay us to do the labor. Like we'll waive the diagnostic is what we always say.
Gotcha.
That's how we deal with that exact problem that you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah.
But you don't charge flat fees, so I can see why that would be difficult for you. Because you charge hourly, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on what it is, right? Like I said, I like 99.999% of the work that I do is the white label remote support. I don't take a whole lot into the shop anymore, right?
I see.
The only people that I do that for, I've now pared myself down to one client that just will never go anywhere else, because I have done miracles for that guy to keep his auto shop running so he can keep fixing cars, okay? So, and there's nobody else in town, because he's used every IT company out here.
Question: What software does he use in his auto shop? What proprietary software?
It is specific to the franchise that he has purchased into.
Okay. No, the reason I asked is because I happen to know a few different proprietary repair shop softwares that I had to learn to help certain clients who now can't use anyone else because no one else knows that software.
That's right, yeah. Pixel Point was the other thing, the point of sales for restaurants. I wound up learning Pixel Point very well, and the closest person to me that knows Pixel Point is an hour-and-a-half drive away. And now that I'm not supporting it anymore, there's a lot of upset people in the city of Barrie, but what are you going to do? But anyway, point being is that I'm not taking these guys in, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But if I have someone say, hey, listen, can you come pick up my computer? There's something wrong with it, and it's a Sunday and it's coming from that shop. I'll say, well, yeah, no problem, I can come out there. But I'm going to charge you the $89 at minimum just to come out and look at it.
Yeah.
And if I look at it and if I unplug a USB stick from your computer, reboot it, and it fixes, that's $89 for me to pull that thing out.
Right. Yeah, we charge an hour minimum for going out there. We charge $150 an hour for businesses, and we try to push people towards remote solutions first, mostly because if you have, not if it's like a USB, but if I had a client just yesterday, or Friday, who just needed to clear her browser cache. That's it. But It wasn't obvious because to her Adobe PDF wasn't working. But I was able to figure that out in 2 minutes. So instead of charging her an hour, I charged her for about a half an hour. And
right.
that was, I spent maybe 15 minutes on it, but she's getting me to connect to her machine and do all this stuff. So yeah, with remote I make an exception, but if we're going there, we're charging an hour at least. And that's the same. We charge hourly. The only thing we charge flat fees for businesses is like projects, like migrations, like Google Apps migration. We have a flat fee structure that we tell them ahead of time, and it's awesome. It's great.
Well, we do what I'll wind up doing is I'll tell somebody that if they're bringing it to me, I'll tell them that, listen, you know what, it's $50 for the diagnostic, and if you are okay with the quote that you wind up getting after, we'll put the $50 towards the quote, and we won't charge you the diagnostic. If you don't want us to fix it, we're keeping the $50 because I'm going to put the time into figuring out what's wrong with your computer, putting together a quote for you, researching the parts that you need, and I'm sorry, but I'm not doing that for free. And I've only ever had 3 people. I mean, I used to charge $50 an hour. That's why I picked the $50 for the diagnostic.
Yeah, we did the same thing. It takes us an hour to do it. We have our custom, like if we don't have a way to charge you, if there's no flat fee for it, we'll charge an hour labor $100. Same exact thing, just different.
It's like, I'm going to spend all this time doing it. I can't do that for free. I have other people waiting for me, and I am not working on their stuff because I'm working on yours. And I've had 6 people, I think, in like 4 or 5 years that ever was like, oh, I'm not paying you a diagnostic fee. Well, you can take it anywhere else, but and then I give them that explanation. I had one person not want to do business with me after that. And you know what? I don't want a customer like that, because if you're not willing to pay for the service that you're being provided, then you're not a customer that I want.
That's what we tell them ahead of time. We say, here's how it's going to work. You know exactly what you're going to pay before you leave it with us, to the best that our knowledge can provide. Like at the minimum, you'll pay a diagnostic. If that changes, we'll call you and you'll know what that, like, it's all about managing expectations.
Yep.
If you can manage their expectations, you're fine 99% of the time.
Yeah.
I agree. No, these are very good. Very good subjects. A lot of information on how people do business, and a couple different perspectives. Sitting on the panel today, just good information as far as how to do different things. And we've all got things that work for us. Depending on the size shop you are, depending on how much your customer flow is, all those types of things. For me, I've gotten my process down to it's usually less than 10 minutes, and I can figure out what's going on. Number one, from talking to the customer on the phone initially, and then number two, it kind of gives me an idea, and most of the time I can usually find the issue. If not, there's always those ones that are buggers, and they just throw you for a loop, and you're all over the place, and they do waste a lot of time. So I do get those every once in a while, so that it kind of makes it a pain, and you're like, man, I'm not getting paid for nothing for this, and if I don't fix it, or then I get nothing. So I can see the doing it both ways. Now, I will tell you this: if I leave this, if I leave my house, you're getting charged. There's no doubt about it. But I only do free diagnostics for drop-offs. So
you're also not, and this isn't a slight against you. This is just where your business is. You don't really have the overhead of an office or a shop.
Exactly.
You don't have the overhead of paying for an employee.
Exactly.
Yep. So there's a lot of things that you're not paying for that other shops are, which is a lot of the reason why a diagnostic fee is so important for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And don't get me wrong. To be honest with you, if I was in a brick and mortar shop, I would absolutely charge a diagnostic fee, because you're going to have a lot more people coming in off the street and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My business is mostly word of mouth, and it's on the smaller end, where I've only got handfuls of customers coming here, a month. So it's still good profit for me, because I've raised my rates, and I'm charging a lot more, and I only get the customers that actually want to pay that. The other ones, they go elsewhere, and I'm fine with that, because I'm less busy and I make more money. So it's a win for me.
Hey, if you can pull that off, more power to you.
So, anyways, I tell you what, we're a little bit over an hour, and we've gone over a lot of subjects. A couple things I wanted to bring up is a couple things that have happened to me this week, and I thought that this might help somebody out. One of the things is back in August, Microsoft basically did an accumulative update for Internet Explorer. It was Internet Explorer 8 and above, and it only affected Windows 7 and above. The reason I bring this up is because I have a customer who has to log in and upload photos to Chrysler, and he uses a Java applet. Well, this is something I believe is going to start biting a lot of computer repair shops, and you're probably going to see a lot of this coming up. Basically, what I've had to do is he has to use Java version 6, update 30, no higher, and he has to use Internet Explorer 8, no higher. So, in the past, here's what
I'm shivering. I'm visibly shivering.
So here's what I've done in the past to try to protect the customer is I've put Java 6 update 30 on there, and then on top of that, I do two separate installs. I'll do whatever the latest greatest Java is, so it doesn't wipe out Java 6 update 30. In the past, I could do that, and it didn't cause any problems at all. So what happened was Microsoft did this cumulative update for Internet Explorer 8 and above, and what it does is it does a version check now. And if you do not have an updated version, it will not let you use the Java applet. You will either see a warning, and it won't let you run it, even though it says run this one time. It will not let you do it, or it won't run at all. It'll just say done on the bottom of the browser and not work. So what I've had to do is there is a Microsoft KV knowledge base article about this, where I basically had to add two different registry keys manually, and what I also had to do was I had to get rid of the version. What is it? The version.xml list that tells it which versions of Java to check for and not run, and that's in your app data folder under Microsoft and under version manager, I believe. Anyways, I will put a link in the show notes on this particular show to let people know where it's at. Nowadays, I can only run Java 6 Update 30. I cannot run them in tandem because they will mess with each other. Now, other companies might have, maybe they're using more updated versions of Java, so they might not run into this. But if you're using an extremely 2 generations old version of Java, and you can only go up so high, this is something you might have to do. You might have to run that Java by itself, and just in order to get this to work. And you're going to have to add a couple registry keys, like I said, and get rid of that that version list. And one of the registry keys, what it does is it makes sure that it does not re-download that version list, because it'll check every 24 hours. So you have to write the registry key.
I have a question. Is the user perpetually using the old version of Java then? There's no way they can use a new version?
Nope. Can't use the new version at all.
I have a question. What if you manually installed the Java plugin for an alternative browser, and then just for everything else had them go and use that browser, and then just for that one website had them use IE? Would that work somehow?
I could well, no, because I can't. Here's a problem. In what I've tried using alternative browsers also, and I can't get any of them to work, because if I install another version of Java, it will stop my version of Java working.
Well, hold on. I didn't say install. There's a way in Firefox to force a plugin from an alternative directory that has it use this. You basically can put the binary for the Java, whatever, the library, however it runs. You can drop that in a certain folder, and it will look there for that plugin. It doesn't matter. I can tell you about it later, but that's what I would think. I would think, because at least then they'd be using an updated version. But you know what the problem with my way is? They would never get updates because it doesn't manually update. So actually, forget that, because then you'd be stuck in the same situation eventually.
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, so for this person to try to, because they're an older retired person that's doing this work outside of Chrysler, to confuse them that much more, it's just not going to.
Yeah.
Even in part of the problem is these companies are just not updating their services at all. And I had him make a phone call to see if we could do any changes compared to the information that we got over a year ago. But this is the workaround that I've had to do. And on top of that, here's the other thing that I learned, because I could not get it to work. I had it working, then Windows did some updates and messed me up, and I had to go back and refix everything. Couldn't get it to work the second time. What happened was, for whatever reason, the Internet Explorer in the taskbar down at the bottom was actually pointing to the 64-bit Internet Explorer 8. So that will absolutely, definitely not work. You have to use Internet Explorer 32-bit. Yeah. So I had to change. So I got rid of that shortcut, made a new shortcut. But it's something I don't normally use 64-bit IE, or maybe I don't use IE at all. So it's not something I would have thought of. So hopefully maybe that'll help at least point somebody in the right direction of what to look for, because I believe a lot of businesses that have to use Java applets for doing whatever they do for businesses are eventually going to be hit, because here's the problem. Most consumers that are working out of their houses are not getting regular updates. I see it all the time. We get computers that come in and it's got the little blinking blue icon at the bottom, and you've had Windows updates waiting for the last 6 months. You've never hit this button? I didn't know what that was. So what's going to happen is, once they're forced to get some of these different updates and whatnot, or something happens to their computer, they have to get a new computer, they absolutely I believe, are going to run into the same problem. So this took me a couple months on and off. I had it figured out, and it broke, and I had it figured out, and it broke, and I hopefully have it figured out for the last time. If not, I'm just going to have to tell this customer that I can't help.
I mean, it's not your fault. Your hands are tied. It's like I always have clients who complain. They'll say to me, "Oh, Office for Mac, I have this problem," and I say, "You know what? They haven't updated it in 4 years. It's
Right.
not my problem. It's not. I didn't make this decision for you." So
Exactly.
yeah, I also you could also the one thing you could do. I was thinking in terms of IE and Java is you just whitelist only that Chrysler website.
Tried that.
It didn't
Didn't
work.
work. Nope. Dude, I'm telling you, I pulled my see my hair's
I
thin.
believe you.
I
Okay.
pulled my hair out just to
Yeah.
try to figure out this one specific problem, and it just keeps rearing its head. And and here's the thing that I didn't understand, because this guy's got a backup computer. He has a Windows Vista machine with IE8 on it, and it's the same Java, Java 6 update 30.
Oh.
Okay, so this cumulative update from Microsoft does not affect Windows Vista. Only Windows 7 and above, and only IE8 above.
So the guy had one computer that worked and one computer that doesn't. I remember this.
Yep, exactly. The same identical setup, except 2 different operating systems. That was the only difference. So it drove me nuts. But anyways, that's one of the things I figured out. Hopefully maybe that'll help somebody out, especially if you're supporting businesses and people who have to use these Java applets, because I know the big companies, Chrysler, Ford, GM, their systems are not updated. I work for Ford, so I know that for a fact. We're still using IE8, and I don't know if we have to use. I know we use Java applets for some things. I've never really checked to see what version they're on because it doesn't directly involve me. But anyways, so I just want to give that out there and let everybody know what was going on. And then the other thing too was a lot of people have kind of asked the difference in the couple of shows that I do. And what I wanted to explain was this is basically a roundtable of computer repair guys or computer repair business owners that come on and share their knowledge about certain specific topics or whatever, and we kind of go off on tangents, which has been great today. And then we'll also take live calls on the show. And we'll also play, if you guys will leave your voicemails, we'll play voicemails, and we'll read your emails on the show and answer questions live on the air. That's one of the reasons for doing this show. It's more interactive. We also have the chat room open. We can converse with you on there. Chris is better at that than I am because I've got a lot of things going on here. But that's why we do Podnutz. And Podnutz also is if you have if you have a computer repair product that you're selling, we will also showcase you on the show and give you some free time on the show to talk about your product. We've done it with Chris's business, Remote Support Tech Team. We've done it with Repair Shop or Repair Shopper. We've done it with Repair Tech USB. D7 with Nick Shaw. We've done it for a lot of different businesses out there to basically showcase their product and what they have for the computer repair field, because I always feel that this form of being able to hear about a product is a lot of times can be better than just reading about a product or trying to figure it out on your own. You get a lot more insight, hopefully, from the information we give. And then we have Podnutz Daily, which has been a great show. And I know some people complain. They say, well, it's called Podnutz Daily, but it's not a daily show. Yes, originally it started off as a daily show, but it is not a daily show per se. It is a day in the life of a computer repair tech, and it's where I have just another computer repair tech come on. Yochai's been on here. I've had many people on here that have just shared what they do in their shops, and it's just me and one other person sharing information back and forth to hopefully help you guys out there. So that's the differences in the two shows, in case anybody was wondering out there. And that's why they're very similar, but there's a different focus for each one of them. So I hope that explains everything, and hope you guys kind of understand what we're doing. Anyways, with that being said, we've had a good full show here. Hey, I tell you what, let's go ahead and go around. And Yochai, go ahead and let us know where people can find you at and get some more information on what you're doing.
Sure, yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I'm in Massachusetts, and a cat keeps walking behind me. They're hungry. I work for Boston Tech Collective, which is a worker-owned IT shop in Somerville, Massachusetts, although we serve the entire Boston area. We have another shop in San Francisco. You can find us at bostontechcollective.com, and I can be emailed at yochai@bostontechcollective.com as well.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for all your informative information. It's been great.
Yeah, I appreciate there's a lot of good knowledge here. It's nice.
Very cool. All right, and Chris, go ahead and pimp yourself. I mean, go ahead and tell people where they can find you at.
Free advertising. This is my name's Chris, Remote Support Tech Team. Most of you know me by now, but I'm going to do the speech anyway. We do white label remote support for other IT companies. You can get us at www.rstechteam.com. You can email us, info@rstechteam.com, or you can get us on Technival at Carcomp, CARRCOMP.
Very good. Well, appreciate you guys coming out. And just want to let you guys know you can find me over on the Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC. And guys, we're looking for voicemails and emails. You guys can leave a voicemail over at 1-888-697-0162. It's the same number that you can call the show when we're live. So go ahead and leave us some voicemails, questions, or whatever, just information that you want to share on the show, and we'll definitely put that on. You guys, if you're a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily, email me at podnutzdaily@podnutz.com. Always looking for techs to come on and share what they're doing, no matter what your knowledge level is at. I always learn something from everyone. And if you guys, if you'd like to feature your product or service on the show, email me at podnutz@podnutz.com. And if you guys can do us a favor, I know a lot of people don't probably use iTunes, but if you could load up iTunes and go leave us a rating and review over there, that would help us in just making the show so people can see it a little bit better. And hopefully this, the reason we do this show is to help you guys. So hopefully this is helping some people out there. And from the emails and stuff that I have received in private messages and stuff, it sounds like it is helping people. So I'm glad about that. You guys can also help support the Podnutz Network. The next time you're shopping at Amazon, it's getting close to Christmas, go to podnutz.com/Amazon. Remember, that doesn't change your price at all. It puts a little change in the pockets of the Podnutz Network to help you guys in bring you these great shows. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Great show, guys. Great.
I'm having everybody dancing to your intro and outro by the time this is over.
Yeah, I know. Some people miss it when you don't do it.
I know. I've done that before where I've like zoned out. I'm like, okay, here comes the music, and then I'm waiting for the show to start, and then come into the shop like, oh, what, Chris, no dance today? I'm like, oh, jeez. I apologize to the public.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, please. As long as you keep it in the chair, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Whoa. Whoa.
I'm just saying.
This is supposed to be PG rated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So keep it in the chair, okay? That's all I'm saying. Well, Yochai, did you? Hopefully you had a good time. Really enjoyed your insight on stuff that you guys are doing over there. And
yeah, I really liked hearing both of your. There's a sense of camaraderie from dealing with the BS of our industry. So I appreciate it, and I also appreciate alternative opinions because you get yourself in a rut sometimes, and you don't update your own opinions. I feel like I really learned a lot from everybody. So.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad, and that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about this show. No matter who's been hosting it or who's been on it, it's I learned something literally from everybody. You could be a brand new tech in this business, and because you've got this whiz bang idea that you go, hey, I've been able to make this work for me, and we're like going, wow, why didn't I ever think of that? And you go, you test it out, or you try it, or whatever, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, depending on your area or whatever. But it just makes. I always like to think ahead, and I always like to think to the future, and kind of always adapt my business because I'm the same way. I don't want to get stagnant in what I know. Because the limited amount of knowledge I know, somebody always knows more. And so
or they know something different. I mean,
exactly.
I am the first to admit that, holy crap, I don't know anything about, I'm not a software developer. So I have a guy who I work with who is, and I ask him questions. I don't feel bad about it.
Right.
We should be proud of what we don't know.
Exactly. It always leaves room for improvement, right? So we can definitely learn something new every day. Right, Chris?
It's hard to improve on perfection, Jeff.
Yes, I know. You saw the title of the show last week, right?
No.
Oh my gosh.
It's downloaded into my iTunes, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
It's called I Don't Make Mistakes.
Oh, you know what? There it is.
Oh yeah, what did you call it, or Chris? You called it "You Don't Make Mistakes."
I don't make mistakes. Yeah.
What you say?
No,
I don't make mistakes.
I make
I
learning.
don't make mistakes. I create learning opportunities.
There it is. Yeah, I like. It's pretty brilliant, actually. I'm assuming you didn't make it up. It's a little too brilliant, but.
No, the idea, no. When I first came out of college, the very first thing that I did was I got a contract at Honda to do their IT, and it's a very Japanese way of thinking there because they're run by Japanese managers, and that is the biggest thing is that nobody makes a mistake. It doesn't matter how badly you screw up, you make a mistake. You were either not trained properly, or the process didn't exist. But no matter what the problem was, all we did was learn from it, and we're going to move forward. People who get fired at a place like Honda get fired because they go out of their way to do something stupid.
Well, it's from everything I know about the Japanese, that sounds culturally accurate. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know a lot of our back in the day when Mazda and Ford was teamed up, a lot of their facilities had a lot of Japanese philosophy, and it's just a different way of thinking. I know my father-in-law worked for a Japanese company here in the local area, and they would everything they do is like it's all to make production as good as they can do it, and they would do things like, okay, we're going to order office chairs. So they bring in 3 office chairs and say, here, sit on them. And so the employees will sit in them and go, I like this one, and all day long they'll get the $600, $1,000 chair, and they order hundreds of them, and it's just the way they do things. So.
Yep.
So when I worked in San Francisco, one of our clients is a coffee company, a pretty famous one, and then they basically Google asked them to come to a huge coffee event, and everyone who works at Google had to choose the best coffee, and they picked the coffee company that was my client that I did IT for, and basically that's the coffee that the entire company used from then on. This one little coffee place, called 4 Barrel Coffee, they are the Google's sole coffee provider. I mean, that's like a $150,000 contract with them. And this is a little tiny place. They had 2 access points, okay? That's how small they were. And they got the Google contract because they were that good, I guess. But they call it they had some slightly pejorative term for that kind of decision-making process, but I thought it was cool. Okay.
Now, somebody's asking in the chat room, how did you come up with your Yochai? How did you come up with your logo? Any history behind it?
If you look at it from the perspective that you have it here, it basically looks like the top of a screw, but it also looks like 4 people standing around a table. So there's debate as to which one it is, and I'm not going to ever say because I like to keep those things for myself. But we basically worked. I told Jeff this in the interview he and I did. Basically, I worked for another tech company and then left with a bunch of their employees. Will you go out of the way? Sorry. I worked for another tech company. It's their feeding time. I worked for another company. We left and we met at this Subway, like a block away from my old employer, and we sat around a table and sort of talked about, man, I wish we had a place that didn't suck to work for, and we sort of came up with that as a. Jesus Christ! Sorry, the cat just jumped in front of my computer. Get away! Sorry. We came up with that logo based on the top of a screw or us being around the table, and one other guy drew it. It was my idea conceptually, but that's the story. I conceived it. He drew it. It is one of those 2. I won't say which one.
It's funny because until you said screw, I didn't see it. I saw the 4 people standing around a table. As soon as you said screw, I was like, oh yeah, I see it.
See, I think that somebody at the table said, man, if we could only work for ourselves, it would be like getting a home run, and you made a baseball diamond.
If only we were nerds who played baseball or watched any kind of sports. And no. That's
You don't
fine.
need to
That's
watch,
fine.
I don't watch sports. I still see a baseball diamond there, though.
Yeah. Look, I live in Boston, so it's very difficult for me to say this, but I hate baseball. I think it's really boring. But hey, don't get me wrong, it's acceptable to me that other people like it. If anyone at that table was a sports fan, I would say they had some credibility, but unfortunately they were not. Now they are. The guys we hired out here, they're sports people, but not me. So.
Oh man, that's good. No, that's funny. No, I don't watch. It's funny. I don't watch sports at all. I think sports are good for one thing only, and that's for taking naps. And I don't really have time to take naps. So, what was I doing before the show? Let me see. Oh, I was playing Call of Duty. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't have time for a nap, though.
No, I don't have time for a nap because I got to take the terrorist cells down before they take over the world.
And I need to get to a level 100 before the next expansion comes out.
What's that?
And I have to get to a level 100 before the next expansion comes out.
Level 100 on what?
He's talking about World of Warcraft is what he's talking about. If you were...
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know nothing about that.
I don't either, but he mentioned it earlier. It's those things.
If you would pay attention to the conversation, Jeff, you would have been fine. But I understand that you filter me out during these shows. It's okay.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this though. Well, you're not on my Steam account, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, did I friend you?
Remember because we were playing. What were we playing?
Oh, Chivalry.
Chivalry.
That's
we
right.
were playing Chivalry, so I had to add you.
So you just don't look at the hours that I've spent playing Call of Duty Black Ops and Black Ops 2.
Just don't look at the lack of hours that I have in my Steam library over the last few months, because I've been working. And
you've been playing WoW, which is not on Steam, so there you go.
Yeah, it's true. He's gotten out.
Yeah.
Look.
So that's like. So you go in privacy mode, is what you're saying?
No.
Yeah,
What's privacy mode? I don't know what that is.
Chris, is Chivalry a Canadian company? Do you know the people who made it? Are they Canadian?
You know what? I don't know, but I tell you what.
I think they are. The only reason I mention them at all is because they just released a Linux version. So.
The thing you guys need to remember is that we don't all know each other. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, but there's so few of you up there. I just.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
My home state has a larger population than the whole country, so I just.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and more density too.
Oh.
But you see, we all have to huddle near the border for warmth in the winter. So.
Right.
Yeah, especially how much snow did you have the other day, Chris?
Oh my God! You know what? Like, out of all the jokes, though, it hasn't snowed since. But we had, what was it, 2 feet of snow on the one day, and of Friday. And that was bad because I was proposing to my girlfriend that day, and I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to go anywhere because the snow was so bad. But they plowed it and it was fine.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Wow. So that's where you're going Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
Well, I couldn't tell you in the car she was there.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised you even picked up. Okay.
When do I not work, Jeff? Pick a time that I don't work that's before 11.
Yeah, I know. That's why I almost even didn't send you an email because I figured he's going to probably try to answer this. I don't want you to answer. Just listen to it. That was after I fixed that problem. But hey, thank you for the idea. I can't remember what idea you gave me, but it made me think in a different direction. So
compatibility mode, running Internet Explorer in Windows Vista.
So to come back to that point, there is no compatibility mode in Internet Explorer because it is a part of the Microsoft operating system.
No.
Yeah, it's grayed out. Can't do it. But that little tidbit right there gave me enough information to go on and look at it. Maybe look at Internet Explorer a little bit harder and finally realize I was using 64-bit instead of 32, and that fixed my problem.
Chris, they're in Toronto. I just checked.
Yeah, nice. I was still waiting for Steam to update because I haven't opened it for so long that it's not up to date.
I'm looking. It actually took me a minute, but yeah, they're in Toronto.
See that?
So,
we do good stuff sometimes.
Oh yeah, sure. That's actually why I thought. I was like, oh, another good Canadian.
Me.
Sport's only good for naps. LOL. Congrats, Chris. Hope she said yes.
I wouldn't be talking about it if
Exactly.
Yeah, I doubt he would offer that.
It's like, no. Oh, yeah, okay.
Like, oh, and I'm single now, but
Well, you know.
It's a celebration.
Is that why you're podcasting out of your bedroom? Okay.
What? It's the same door that's been in the background every single time we've had a show. Although, within the next couple of months, I'll be doing this from the new office.
Nice.
If I've done all my numbers and crunches right. So there's that.
So you have a good internet connection then?
Yes. Actually, when I went over there to look at the place, I asked them if I'd be able to get a key to the network closet.
Oh.
Because
so they basically bring in the pipe and then spread it out amongst the offices.
Well, that's what they do for the included internet, but the included internet is not going to be enough for me. I can't share internet with 8 different offices and still be able to, do my job.
Right.
So I'm going to put in my own internet, and my condition to that was to have access to the key for the network closet. And what we're going to do is just patch the Ethernet port for the office or offices that we pick up into our own modem and do that.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, fellas, it's like 5:41, and I know everybody's probably got stuff to do. I guess, Chris, there's no the season ended for Doctor Who, right? So we got to wait till the Christmas special and then next year?
No. The Doctor Who is going on hiatus.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
No. When you say waiting until next year,
yeah.
Doctor Who has gone on hiatus.
What?
I don't know if it's going to air next year. It might be the year after.
You're kidding me.
Do you remember
they're doing that. That's what they do these days.
Yeah. Do you remember that year where they had basically 3 specials throughout the year, and then they didn't air anything until the next year? That's probably what this year is going to be.
It's the same thing with Sherlock. Sherlock finished, and they are not going to have a new episode till 2016.
Well, yeah, but that's because Cumberbatch decided he wanted a real career, so he decided to go into movies and stuff.
And Martin Freeman,
Martin Freeman did too?
Well, he's the Hobbit.
Is he?
Oh.
He's actually the one in that movie that you notice, although Cumberbatch is also in that. He's Smaug.
I didn't think about that.
I did know that he was Smaug. I did know that he was Smaug.
So,
yeah,
how many seasons of Sherlock have aired so far?
3. There have been 9 episodes.
They're series.
They're series, yeah. Excuse me.
Right. Well, yeah, what are they, hour-and-a-half shows or something like that?
Yes, each one's an hour and a half. That's right.
So
it's a great show.
It's an awesome show. So is the third show or the third season up on Netflix yet?
Yeah, and the whole thing's on Netflix. I read something very interesting. No spoilers. I read that a relative of the Holmes from the original series, so it's not spoiler. I read a relative will be played by Tom Hiddleston, who played Loki in the Thor and Avengers movies, which I think is freaking perfect.
Right.
Perfect. So, yeah. It's not really the topic of this program that we're on right now, but it is.
The wrap-up show.
This is a post show, so we can talk about whatever we want.
You can curse, but not quite, because Jeff will yell at you.
Well, yeah. So I'm looking at. Well, maybe I did watch all 3.
I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end because it's a spoiler. So, but I could say, do you remember blank? I did read that there's a chance that there will be a Christmas special this year, but I have not. Yeah, no, it doesn't. But the only thing I do know is that they won't even start filming till 2015.
Yeah.
See, now that makes me mad. So is Clara gone?
I'm not spoiling that. We were said no spoilers. That was what it said in the chat. No spoilers.
Oh, I didn't see that.
No.
Don't listen right now. Everybody shut your ears.
Here, hold on. Let me fix this.
Oh, there you go. That kind of makes me mad. I'll tell you what, man. To be honest with you, I was probably drawn in really with David Tennant the most. And then, Matt Smith took a little time to warm up to. And this other Doctor, towards the end, he's really gotten, I don't know, more like the Doctor, I guess, more likable, so to speak.
You know who he is, right?
Yeah, he was the Centurion in one episode way back when.
He had a TV. He was the Thick of It. He was in that show, The Thick of It, which he swears a lot in.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen The Thick of It, you should watch The Thick of It. It's like 3 series long. It's fantastic.
What's it about?
It's about it's about British politics, sort of, but
okay.
It's done sort of cinema verite, so it looks like The Office, the way that The Office looked.
Right.
But my God, they have a swearing coach. They have a guy who gets Peter Capaldi had to meet with him numerous times to learn how to swear, because he has these litanies of great swearing combinations. It's incredible. If you want to hear some amazing swearing, watch that show. It's also funny. Okay. But yeah, I couldn't believe that they picked him to replace Smith. So yeah.
Well, what's funny, I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly he is actually the president of the Doctor Who fan club.
I didn't know that.
So yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
That's hard for me to accept. I don't totally believe that.
And I don't know if he was a part, but there was something to the effect of that he was part of the, he was a big fan of the Doctor Who. Most of those guys were. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but one of the older doctors that was, I want to say David Tennant's uncle or something.
The thing about Capaldi too, though, is he was supposed to be. I'm probably getting the number not wrong, but he was supposed to be the 9th Doctor. He was invited to audition.
Oh, okay.
And he turned it down because he didn't want to ruin it.
Gotcha.
He didn't think he'd be able to do the part justice, but I think he's done a great job.
He has. It's a different take, being a little bit older, and it took a while for him to get that. At first, he kind of just had that, almost a standoffish attitude, and then now he's in that where he's like, I'm the Doctor. I'm here to save the human race, no matter what, and this is what I'm going to do. It was just the last couple episodes kind of had that little switch where you could just kind of see it, and you're like going, yeah, that was really good. So. But now that it's going on high, that just makes me mad. That just makes me. No, never mind.
I think you're wrong. He's not the daughter of Tennant's wife, because that would involve a sex change.
What's that?
Corin asks, isn't he the daughter of Tennant's wife?
Isn't his daughter? Yeah, isn't his daughter?
Yes, the one that played his daughter, the clone, is actually his wife, the blonde.
If we're going to start getting all Matrixy about it, to bring up the thing I know about, in Sherlock, which is also a Moffat show,
yes.
Martin Freeman's character, Dr. Watson, the woman he marries in that show is his real life wife.
Yes.
And most people know that. What they don't know is that the show is mostly written by the guy who plays Mycroft.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, he's written 13 episodes, not 13, 9. He's written. Well, no, actually, he was credited for 13, so I guess there's some tiny one. It doesn't matter. But he's pretty much co-written every single episode.
Very cool.
The guy who plays Mycroft. Oh yeah. All right.
Sorry. Jeff, before I go,
yes.
Sent you a new link on your. I put it in this one on accident. I put it to you. A new link for the sign-up sheet.
Yep, I got it. I will add it in.
Thank you.
Yep, yeah, it's on the. I got it on the Google Hangouts that you sent, so I'll just copy that from there.
Awesome. All right. Have a great night, guys. Thanks. It was great. It was fun.
You too.
Bye.
See you later, Chris.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Probably my cue too. I think the cats are they're going to start eating me soon.
Yeah, I've got a couple more shows to do tonight, and then I'm going to go get something to eat. Yeah, I got 7 this week, so it keeps me busy.
Jesus. Yeah, seriously. Well, I'm gonna go feed these machines because they're. Stop staring at me. He just stares. Where is it? He just stares at me.
It's like feed me.
Yeah, that's what. It's not even time. You have 10 minutes. All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. you're more than welcome. If you got another Sunday that you would love to come back, or one of your other guys there,
Yeah.
feel free
I was
to hit me
yeah,
up.
if you and same deal. If you want to invite me, I'll pass it on to Charlie sometime too. 'Cause he does hangouts on the regular, so this is
Okay.
totally something he would do. And he knows doesn't know the shop as well as I do because his
Okay.
background is more what do you call it, home support-y, but it's still very relevant.
Oh yeah.
Getting stuff to all work together. So yeah, I'll mention it to him.
Yeah, because we do the show every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, so
Okay.
like
Cool.
clockwork.
All right. I'll keep that in mind. Well, thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks everybody for listening and chatting.
It's cool. Good to have you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, see ya. All right, and I think that is my cue to actually take off, and we're going to stop the broadcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week.